This Shabbat is called Shabbat Shira. It gets that name from Shirat Hayam, the Song of the Sea, which we read about in Parshah Beshalach. There's an interesting custom on this Shabbat that you may or may not be aware of. There's a custom to feed the birds on this Shabbat. There are a couple of different reasons given for this particular custom. One suggestion is an interesting midrash which says that when Moshe had told the people upon receiving the man that they should not go out on Shabbat to collect the man because there wouldn't be any man there, Datan and Aviram, the two troublemakers in the camp, who were always a thorn in Moshe's side, wanted to try to prove Moshe wrong. So they went out at night and sprinkled from their own man, their own source, out on the ground, so that when people would come out, they would find man there, and Moshe would be proven wrong. According to this midrash, the birds came along and ate up the man, so that when the people came out the next morning, there was no man there, thereby saving Moshe and his reputation and God's word. That's one suggestion. Therefore, in gratitude for this, we feed the birds. There's another suggestion, which is that the reason for this custom is because even at the sea, the song of the sea, even the birds sang in praise of God. Now, these reasons are both interesting for different reasons. First of all, this book over here, which contains in it a collection of midrashim and is usually seen to be authoritative, he has a footnote here where he says, "I've never found this midrash about Datan and Aviram and the birds." He says he found it quoted in places, but he's never seen that actual midrash, which is interesting. It's also interesting because in this book over here, the Aruch HaShulchan, who quotes, who gives us a Jewish law and customs, he points out that there are those who disagree with this custom of feeding the birds because according to Jewish law, one is not allowed to feed animals on Shabbat unless the animal is their own or dependent on them for foods. Because birds that are out in the wild aren't dependent on us for food, it wouldn't be permitted to feed them on Shabbat. Nonetheless, the Aruch HaShulchan was also famous for defending the customs of the Jewish people, and so he finds a way explaining that we're really doing this for ourselves and not so much for the birds. This is all very interesting, but I did also want to share just an interesting message and takeaway from each of these, because they're really opposite ways of looking at people. One way is to look at us like Datan and Aviram, the troublemakers, in which case the birds had to go out and eat up the man that was stuck there because they were looking in their cynical way, in their pessimistic way of making Moshe look bad, and we thank the birds that they weren't successful. Another way of looking at people are the people who sing at the sea, so much filled with gratitude that even the birds join in and sing along with us. I guess the question for us is, which type of people do we want to be? Those optimistic people, those people singing that bring along nature and the animals with us in our praise of God, or the people like Datan and Aviram looking to cause problems, looking to cause trouble. In the end of the day, we call this Shabbat, Shabbat Shira, the Shabbat of song. And so I think that the message is clear what this Shabbat is all about. Shabbat Shalom. Have a great Shabbat.